Hi, boys and girls. Miss Cornelia here again with our last lesson for today. We have our science lesson, and I know you guys enjoy science so much. This is going to be a cute little science lesson that we are going to do today. One of the things that we learned about last week was we were learning about the life cycle of insects. We're learning about living organisms and all of that great biology, animal, plant stuff, right? So today we're going to be learning about what is an environment, okay? So let's go ahead and look. Let me share my screen with you. Okay, so here we are. This is on page 73 of your packet. So if you want to go ahead and get it so that you can follow along with us, okay? It says, look at the pictures below. Where do you think these animals live? And how do you think they find food or water? So here we have an opossum, a raccoon, a squirrel, a bird, and a frog. Think about where these animals could live and how or where do they find food or water? I'll give you a few seconds. If you said they might live in a forest, or they might live in a park, or they might live in a forest, any of those things are correct. Okay. Now, how do you think they find food or water? Okay. Think about that too. So let's go ahead and move on. We're going to read about environments. Okay. An environment is a living thing. All the living and non-living things in one place make an environment. So we learned last week that an organism is a living thing. So when I say the word organism, you're going to think, oh, something that's living. So think about an environment. In an environment, you have living and non-living things. For example, Miss Cornelio is a living organism. Her environment is her home. In her home, Miss Cornelio has some living and some non-living things in here. She has water, which is not living. She has furniture, which is not living. She has her daughters, which are living organisms. She has Snoopy, which is a pet. He's a living organism. So in my environment, in my habitat, I have living and non-living things. You must have living and non-living things in an environment. You're always going to find all of those things, okay? So then it goes on to say all animal habitats is, an animal's habitat is a place where in the environment where its needs are met. So this is the place, a habitat is where the animal finds the food, finds water, finds all those things that this animal needs to live, okay? So let's learn about a pond habitat. You are going to listen to a video about the pond habitat. And when you are done, we are going to come back and discuss this pond habitat. So let's see here. Let me share my video with you. Just a second, friends. Let me share that again. Okay, let's go ahead and watch this live in a pond video, and then we will discuss it.
Today, let's discover a water environment. You will be able to observe how this very special place, a pond, has living and once living organisms. There's also non-living things that help plants and animals that live here. noticing how the ducks and even this muskrat, and next comes a frog, use the water to swim in? Perhaps they're trying to find food, which is a need that is met by their environment. Are you watching how this blue heron is wading with his very long legs in the water? He's probably searching for food, maybe a small fish, or even waiting for a frog to jump by. Look how this frog is sitting on this once living tree trunk. He's probably waiting for a tasty insect to come by to eat. Now let's get ready to take a look at the bottom of the pond, boys and girls. Do you see those rocks? We know that rocks are non-living things. But notice how that sunfish is also swimming near that lily pad. He might be using that lily pad to hide from that blue heron. Why do you think that chipmunk wants to be near a pond? Well, he needs water to drink too. Let's continue watching to see what other animals and why they might live near this pond. Did you notice the goldfinch bird, the butterflies, and all these other insects? Well, they need the plants that grow near the pond for food. I certainly hope you enjoyed watching this video about how an environment can meet the needs of plants and animals that live there.
Okay, boys and girls. So there were a lot of awesome, interesting animals that we found in the pond. Now in your chart, let me go ahead and share this chart with you. Sorry, guys. In this chart, oh, sorry, one more. Okay, here we go. In our chart, we have the pond. So according to the video, we found living and non-living things and things that were once living. Now we learned about once living at our school. We learned that leaves on the ground are once living. We learned that logs or sticks or branches, we learned that those are once living because they used to be part of a living organism. Rocks, on the other hand, are not living. They were never living organisms. So let's think about that. So let's look at our pond habitat. This pond or water environment helps meet the needs of living organisms. There is water for fish to swim in and eat insects. The rocks under the water may help the fish hide from other animals. The lily pads are a place for frogs to sit on and eat insects. There is sunlight for the plants to make their own food. The clouds will provide rainwater for the trees and other plants to grow. There's a dead tree log for the turtles to rest on before they swim in the water. The deer eats grass and drinks water from the pond. The raccoon will come to the pond to find small fish to eat. Now, if we look at this picture, we will notice that there are some living organisms. For example, the trees, the lily pads, the grass, the insects that we see, the fish, the frogs, the turtles on the log, the deer, the birds, the raccoon. All of these things are living organisms. We also find some non-living organisms. For example, the water, the rocks under the pond, the air is a non-living thing. The clouds are non-living things. The soil is a non-living thing. Now, other things that we find here that are once living would be like the tree log, because it used to be part of a tree, which is a living organism. The fallen leaves from these trees were once living. And the dead insects. When insects die, they're dead, they're still there, but they're once living because they're no longer alive. Okay, so now when we already talked about things that were living, once living, and non-living, and you might have those on your chart as well. Now let's move on to our next video. I want to show you the video of who lives under the logs. Now, sometimes an environment can be under a log. So let's find out who lives under a log. Let me share that with you. Oh, wrong one.
I'm Logan from Hidden Villa, here in the woods at Hidden Villa on a beautiful February morning. And I wanted to talk to you all today about the special places that animals live. So the first question I have is, where are some special places that animals live? You might have an answer like, in the ocean is where fish live, and we have dolphins and sharks in the ocean too, and in the jungles you might find some monkeys or parrots or jaguars, and in the desert you might find a tortoise or a coyote or a lizard. And those are all really good answers. And here at Hidden Villa we have some special places too where animals live, like the forest, but even more than that, we have tons of very small special places, and believe it or not, there are things that live under logs. So today, we're going to find out what animals live under logs and why. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to roll this log back and we're going to see what's under here. Ooh, there's lots of animals living under this log. And this might look like a lizard. Oh, excuse me. But it's not. It's got smooth skin, and it's a salamander. It's an amphibian, which means that it has smooth skin and is closer related to frogs. So you can see it's got eyes and 4 legs and a really long tail. And they live under logs because that's where they can find food. It's one of their special places. But also, one of the reasons that they're able to live under logs, there's not a lot of space here, and they actually don't have lungs to breathe. They breathe through their skin. And so that's one of the ways that they're able to live under logs. You and I, we couldn't live under a log, but this salamander definitely can. Let's see what's under this log. Oh, a cricket just hopped away. And here's a cricket too. You can see it's got these really big back legs so that if something scares it, it can jump away really quick. And they like to live under logs because it's where they feel comfortable. It's a place where a bird or a snake or a lizard will have a lot harder time finding them. So a log is their special place because it keeps them safe. So we just rolled this log, and I found this critter right on over here who I'm moving with my bug box very carefully, because this is a Jerusalem cricket, which kind of looks like a cricket, but it can't jump like a cricket. And they like to live under logs, and just one of the big things, and this is actually a small one, they can get a lot bigger, and being careful not to touch it around its head, because they have some pretty fearsome bites, and that would not feel good. They aren't venomous, but it just would not feel good. So the Jerusalem cricket's one of those things that live under logs, and look, it found another even smaller microhabitat under that leaf. So we learned that animals live under logs because it's where they can find food, it's where they're comfortable, and it's where they can be safe. And when I think about it, that's the reason why animals live in all of their special places. Fish live in the ocean because it's where they can find food and where they're safe. And that's why monkeys live in the jungle, and it's why squirrels live in the forest. So next time you see an animal in its special place, you can think about, why did it choose to live there? And why is it good at living there? And that's what scientists do. They want to figure out why animals live the places that they do. I'm Logan from Hidden Villa, and that's what's good in the woods.
Okay, friends, so we got some new information about who lives under the logs and other living organisms that live there. And we learned that the organisms that live under log live there because they find their food there and they find everything they need there for them to be safe and to survive. So let's look at this water environment, and we're going to complete this chart by finding living organisms, by finding once living organisms, and by finding non-living things. So here right away I can see that there are trees back here. a raccoon, there's lily pads, there's plants, there's insects, there's birds, there's like a wild cat over here, there's a fish, there's lizards, there are crickets, they're part of the insects, okay? So once living organisms, I can say there's leaves that fell from the trees or fallen leaves. We can say there's dead insects are probably found here. Branches that fell from those trees, and maybe a few logs that might be found around here. Some non-living things: water, the air, the clouds, the rocks, the sand or the soil, the sunlight. These are all non-living things that we find in this picture. Now, our next question is, explain how a living organism might use this in water environment. Include how other living organisms and non-living things will help meet its needs to live and grow. Well, we can say, we can explain like, let's pick a living organism. Let's say the wildcat. The wildcat might come to the pond, or that might come to this water environment to find fish for food, to find fish to eat, water to drink, right? And it might use some of the trees to hide from predators, or logs even, right? I'm sorry, or logs to hide from predators, okay? So right here, I'm just explaining how this living organism uses this environment to get everything it needs to live, okay? He gets air from the air he's breathing. He's getting water from the pond. He's getting his food from the fish or other small animals. He's getting space. He has a space. This forest is his space. So let's think about everything that we have to include in our environment. We know that in our environment, we must include where the animal lives. We have to include food in our environment. We have to include plants. We have to include different things in our environment. So this is your work for today. We're not going to do this part. We're going to be creating an environment, okay? And this is going to be a fun project, friends. You can make an environment out of a paper plate if you wish, or even you can even get a little box and create an environment inside your box, right? I was thinking of doing an environment in this box, but then what I did, I got a piece of paper. I went all through my house looking for materials to make my environment. So I just got a piece of paper and folded it like this, okay? And I decided to pick, your job is gonna be to pick an animal, and you're gonna create an environment for that animal. Now, the animal that I picked is the same animal that I researched in reading and we wrote about in writing. So remember when I did my poster and all of that, I picked a panda. So what I did right here, I thought about, okay, where do pandas live? Well, pandas live in forests, rainforests, right? And so guys, I don't know how to draw, so I just took a little picture of a panda. And I created some trees here. I got some cardboard. I've been getting a lot of boxes, so I got cardboard. I got some cotton balls, and I created my little trees. Then I found these little leaf things upstairs, and so I cut them, and I put some leaves here. These are some once living things because the leaves already fell from the tree. These logs and rocks are non-living things. Rocks are non-living things. Logs are once living things. I have my water, right? I have water. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to label all the things that an animal needs from its environment. Now, pandas eat bamboo. So one of the things that I'm going to label is bamboo. And the bamboo is the food. Okay, and I took a picture of bamboo and trees. I even put a cloud. A cloud is a non-living thing. Okay, and so pandas need food. Pandas need water. Pandas need air, and I can just, for air, it's everywhere. So I can just maybe do air here, right? Here's the bamboo. Pandas need air, water, food, a space, and this is our space. And we can just label our space. Okay, so in your environment, you must include an animal and all of its parts. Right here, you can see our panda, and it has all of its structures, all of its a complete panda, right? You must include non-living things in your environment. For example, air. For example, the water. For example, the clouds, right? They're non-living things. The leaves are the non-living things, okay? You must include the food, which we know the panda eats bamboo. And you must include the shelter, the habitat, and this is a whole shelter in the habitat. And does your animal need plants? If it does, then you include it in here. So then I have this standing up like this. Let me see if I can get this like this. And it's my little environment. So when you're done with your environment, I want you to explain everything that we learned to your parents about how an environment is where an animal finds everything it needs to live. And we find living things and show your parents the living things. We have non-living things, show your parents the non-living things, and show your parents the once living things that we found in our environment. Plus also show here, I forgot to label my trees, so I can label my trees. Trees are living. Leaves are once living. Water is non-living. Bamboo is living. Space is non-living. Clouds are non-living. Air is non-living. So make sure you label all your things in your environment so that you can share with your family and with me. Alrighty, guys, so this is a special project. You can do it on a flat paper. You can do it with drawings. You can go find stuff around your house. Make sure that you label everything that I want you to label. Remember, you need air. All living things need air. They need food. They need water. They need a space to live. And in that environment, we find living and non-living and once living things. So I can't wait to see your projects. Make sure you take a picture of your project and send it to me because this is going to be your grade for the week. Alrighty? If you have any questions, I'm going to leave you with this last video about environments to see if you can get some ideas about animals or what you should include on your environment. Here we go. Let's look at this last, oh, sorry guys, wrong one. Wrong one. Let's look at this last video about what is an environment. Here we go.
We are going to explore and explain what is an environment. Our Earth has many different types of environments, but we know that environments should include living organisms such as plants and animals. Once living organisms means they have already died, and non-living objects or things such as water and air and even sunshine. But an environment is also an animal's habitat or home, where its needs are met. You might remember that the needs of an animal include water, air, food, shelter, or space. Environment is also a place where the needs of a plant are being met. The needs of a plant are water, air, sunlight, nutrients, and space. So let's take a look at this sketch. In this sketch, you see many different types of living organisms. Birds, fish, plants. There's a once living organism. Can you see it? It's this tree trunk. And look how that bird is perched upon it, trying to find food. Maybe even that crab that's right there hiding from it. But this is a water environment, and it is meeting all the needs of the animals and the plants that live there, even the ones that are living underwater. If you were to visit a beach, you might find this animal. This is a sand crab. And look how he's crawling across the sand, probably looking for food to eat. So the sand is non-living, but perhaps there might be once living animals that lived on those seashells. Look at the non-living things, the air, the clouds, the sunshine, and the water. If we were to go to a different type of environment, like this one, do you think that crab could live there? Probably not. This lynx can live there because he needs a grassy environment. If you were to go to this environment, boys and girls, you would go somewhere, maybe in West Texas, to find this one. This is a desert. Look at all the rocks, the non-living things. Look at the mountains in the background. Take a look at the sky, where there's air and clouds. Perhaps those are lizards and snakes and even rabbits who are using those rocks to hide from the sun or get away from the heat. This environment looks a whole lot different than the beach one. Let's go to one more environment and take a look at this bird. He's also in a water environment. He's got long legs that will help him find food in the water. And he's using that tree trunk again so he can find the food he needs. So I hope boys and girls, you are able to explain now what is an environment. A place where living organisms, once living organisms, and non-living things meet the needs of the plants and animals that live there.
Okay, friends, so now that was the conclusion to our project. Remember, I want you to create your project. This was my project. Do it the best you can. Use whatever you have at home to try to find and create your project for your animal that you chose. Okay? Alrighty, guys. Happy science time. See y'all later. Bye.